Hello, welcome to another episode of Scratching the Surface. Today we've got our guest Akemia, who runs special guest today. Akemia runs a non-for-profit organisation in my side called Youth 84 Youth. Yeah, I do know it, Akemia.
It's fine anyway.
We just want to know a little bit about what you do in the area and how you help support people in the area and whatnot. So if you could tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into this work that you're doing.
So I've been doing youth work in my side for about 20 years, 25 years. And a lot of our work is around serious youth violence and the creation of perpetual traumatic stress. Because it's not post, because we're all still in that environment. There's new layers of devastation, yearly, whatever. We'd never heal from it, so it's perpetual trauma. It's not post, because post suggests you're removed from that environment. You've got time to recover. This,
a lot of people don't understand that, do they? That people live with this, and it doesn't go away. You know, you just and
a lot of people don't even know that they've got trauma responses, so they're responding in a way that's negative or it's not beneficial to them.
Yeah,
it's harming them. But they're not even aware of it because that to them is normal. It's like we've looked into this a bit, so we understand it. But there's a lot of young people, families that don't. A lot of that work also is supporting young people who get caught up in joint enterprise trials. Which
we'll talk about that.
Because that again creates a lot of trauma. Being accused of a murder that you've not done and having to go through trial and potentially ending up with a life sentence.
So what exactly is joint enterprise? Because there's a large scope for it in it, and I don't think a lot of people know. Even like the kids, like you know, if there's someone pulls out a knife and does something and you're not nowhere near the scene, are you liable as well? Or you know, even if you send a text message, or even if you try to stop your friend from doing the harm, but you know it's seen that you tried to intervene, but it still happened. Is it what is the scope with this joint enterprise?
Sketchy, it's a very sketchy law.
I mean, it's not a law; it's a legal doctrine, and it was introduced originally for kind of bank robberies, so the getaway driver would get included in the case because up to that point he wasn't guilty of robbing a bank. He was the driver, but obviously that probably was planned potentially, and that was his role in it. So, I mean, the Court of Appeal has said that it's been used wrongly over the past few years. So, I mean, we're called 84 Youth, to be fair, because of a joint enterprise case. We got the verdicts for a joint enterprise case that had 13 defendants originally. One got acquitted at the beginning. And that we got verdicts for that on the 8th of the 8th, 2017. So hence the 17 was another 8. So I was like, 8's pretty significant. But on that night as well, some kids came from another area. And I believe they came because of the joint enterprise verdicts, because it had made people vulnerable. The friends were out almost grieving for the friends that were going to get life sentences. And 2 cars came and chased a load of kids on the estate and stabbed 4. There were a high number of severe force stab wounds across them, and one young man he died the following morning in St. Maboob. And so the 8th was really significant. So that's why we got the 8th. We were going to be like, we were looking at motivate youth, elevate youth, but that all felt like young people were lacking, and that's not the starting point we wanted to come from. So then we had liberate youth, elevate youth, motivate youth as projects that we ran under 84 Youth. But the joint enterprise was a big... because no one was acknowledging it. Not many people were arguing about it. Not many people, other youth workers weren't like complaining about it or attending trial. And this was massive to me.
It does seem to, they seem to be using it in the wrong way now, don't they? Where like Neville said, you know, you could just be out with a friend and you don't even know what's going to go down. And next thing you know, you're on a murder charge or something, and it seems to be affecting people of like more
ethnic minorities.
It seems to be impacting.
It's not ethnic minorities. It's black and mixed race. It's black. It's black.
But when we say this, we've got kids that we've got white kids, we've got mixed race kids. It's not just
but the majority of trials that I've sat in 9 trials in the past 9 years. They've all pretty much, they've all had joint enterprise attached to them. The last one, the judge was saying, I don't like the term joint enterprise, I like the term joint participation, but they use terminology a lot and it's just bullshit, like what's the difference? But some of those trials, the trials that I've sat in where there's been 3, 4, possibly 5 defendants, and you can actually see that they've had a role to play.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if it needs to be called joint enterprise, but the evidence has shown there's a specific
this would have been a
role.
conspiracy many years ago, wouldn't it? It would have been like a conspiracy which is...
But there's been 3 trials that I've sat. There's 3 trials that I can think of since then that have had high proportion of young men using the gang narrative, because they've come from Moss Side, Hume, Old Trafford, them kind of areas where the gang narrative's been pushed for decades, as you know yourselves. So it's easy to put a gang narrative on a group of kids from a community like that, because the jury have been influenced by the media and the gang narrative. The judge has, the police have, the barristers have, prosecute and defence. The CPS have. And when I've asked the police, how do you do this? How are you wrapping up 10, 11, 12 kids when a single perpetrator stabs somebody and charging them all with murder? Like, how are you justifying it? And they'll put it onto the CPS. To me, they'll be like, oh, it's the CPS. And it's like, no, it's not, because you're pulling this evidence together and passing it to the CPS. Do you know, I don't understand how somewhere along the line nobody said, hold on a minute. Like, how is this 12-year-old responsible for a murder when he's got no criminal record? He had no knife. It wasn't right there where it happened. There's nothing really to prove.
So I've seen that, but like I've seen it obviously with even in the same thing as like text messages in it, like that can be used to be implicate someone in it. So
it can.
Have you got instances of that where it's been used, like text messages, like where someone might send a message to someone and just like say, well, something where they're only young kids in it, so they might say something, but it's used against them.
There has been. I've not been sat in a trial where anyone's not been in the kind of immediate area or the vicinity.
Right.
I have been, like the trial from 2017, there were 13 charged. A young woman was charged who was pregnant because she was with her boyfriend in a car that didn't go to the scene where the murder happened. They drove the other way. But what that young man had done, he stopped his car and spoke to someone on the other side of the estate, pointed in that direction, and they said that he was instigating and telling people to go and join him, which wasn't the case. He was just explaining what had happened, what had just happened. And the victim had actually tried to stab his car tyres prior to him driving off. The victim was the first one with a knife in that scenario. And then one young man had a knife in a bag, and he used that. But I am fully convinced, I knew 8 of those kids really well, and I am 100% convinced that not one of them had any intention. They were just hanging out that day. And a recent trial that I was in, very similar, 10 young men charged with the murder. Some of them were 12, all of them were under 17 at the time of the incident.
Is it that's what's going on? They're hitting all these young kids with this thing as young as 12 years old.
It's extreme trauma going through one of them trials. Watching it, it's like a train wreck that you can't stop. You're watching it, you're hearing this narrative getting pushed. You're seeing the looks on the faces of the court officials. They're like so judgmental, a lot of them, towards the young men in the dock and towards the families. The courts are lined with police. There's armed police outside, and it's almost the setting, the scenario that these young people, this group of people, including the families, are a threat to society. And
if that's a trial and the jury seeing all that as well.
Setting this whole narrative. I mean, fortunately, in the last one, 6 got acquitted.
Wow,
and the ones that got 5 got acquitted. 3 or 4 got 2 or 3 got manslaughter, 1 got murder. And the manslaughter ones with the under 17s, they got really low sentences. So I'm thinking the jury saw through that narrative. Maybe the judge himself even knew that they shouldn't all be in charge.
What is the key factor? Like, they got acquitted. What is the key factor? Because from my understanding, they have to prove that I had some kind of knowledge that my friend could go out and get himself in some trouble, and so they've got to prove I've got knowledge. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Well, the only difference between the ones that got acquitted and the ones that didn't, there was an incident the day before with the victim's friends where they'd robbed one of the other group's friends at knife point. A couple of them were aware of this, but the majority of the group weren't. So I'm not sure if the ones that got guilty of manslaughter were seen to be aware of that incident, or if they went slightly further into the road, but no one was at the spot where the incident took place. No one was right there. They were all a good distance from it.
So Kevin, let me ask. So what's your role in just supporting the families, or do you talk to the solicitors and the police? Do you get that involved?
I get myself in everything.
Right. Okay.
I argue with the police about it a lot. So I'm on the IAG for Central.
Can they use any of your statements in court, or is it just for out
This
court?
is the thing. We've offered. I was in the first trial. There were me, Patrick Williams, and Becky Clark from MMU who've done intensive research into. The well-renowned researchers when it comes to joint enterprise.
Okay.
And we were trying to we could have disrupted the narrative quite easily. They were saying things like any young people that go to Bengi's, which is a shop that everyone in Masai uses, is a gang member. And they were saying, they said things, like at one bit they said, these young men are attached. They changed the name of the gang. They changed it for, I think, did they go from AO to Mossad Bloods or Mossad Bloods to AO, I can't remember, but they changed the name of the gang halfway through the trial. And they said that Mossad Bloods had links to the LA Crips and the LA Bloods, which makes no sense. Why would you have links to both? And half of them had never left Manchester, let alone gone to LA.
That's just nonsense.
But the jury's locking this up. Because it's hype, it's excitement, it's like a Hollywood film, but it's actually not, it's our lives.
Young kids' lives as well,
And families, the devastation on families when your kid gets a life sentence.
Is this so would you say that they're just so, like, as someone that works in Mossad with the kids and that, do you feel that they're using it to lock up, like, kids in the area?
Get more kids off the streets.
What we've got to think is, that's really simplistic view, but what we've got to think is, like, an average murder costs 3.2 million. If you've got multiple defendants in that, you could be looking at 15 million. That's hella money. And then to keep someone under 18 in prison on average is £240,000 a year. It only costs about 44,000 to go on board at the same school as Prince William and Ivory and get the best education in the country. Like, make it make sense.
So where's this money going then?
Exactly. So I think a few people are getting very rich off using our young people as commodities.
Man. Yeah, of course. Use it, And then once they're in jail, you've got the workforce in jail as well, do it in the workshops.
And if you're getting 20 years, on average, 80 grand a year, it costs between, I think, this says something like 50 grand and 200 grand for an adult prison place.
It could be being used to clear a lot of youngsters off the streets from these undesirable areas to them. And it could also be being used for a money-making scheme.
I tend to veer towards the money thing, because I don't even think I think a lot of the people involved, they've dehumanised our communities anyway, so it's not about, they don't even see them as normal children. They don't relate our kids to their kids.
Everything's racially profiled, the clothing, the language, everything is racially profiled.
What do you think the effects of to families, like the mums and the parents that have to look after when the kids are locked up? What is it?
Devastating, isn't it? It's devastating. It's almost like you've created more victims by this mass incarceration of kids.
And especially if the kids innocent.
And how they get arrested, like a kid got arrested, a kid that was in the last trial got arrested once, and he was 12 at the time this is supposed to have took place. And they had a helicopter, they locked off all the surrounding streets. He was 14 by the time he got arrested. Locked off all the surrounding streets, 5 a.m, about 20 vehicles outside the house, at least 50 officers armed, dragged this kid out in his boxer shorts, had him on the floor, pointing guns at him. Mum screaming that her 9-year-old's in. She's had to go and fetch her 9-year-old from upstairs, cover his eyes, because she's not wanting him to see what's happening. As they've left the house, the police are shouting, arms up, arms up. So she's had to do that, and then pointing the gun at the 9-year-old. That kid got acquitted. He's been arrested like about 4 times, charged with stuff, got NFA'd or just because of what it looks like and where he lives. He's a nice kid. I know this kid. His school actually contacted me to support the family because they love the kid, because they knew he wasn't that kid. And that trauma's going to stay with them forever.
Of course it is.
Like, so the 9-year-old's developed the twitch. Is scared stiff of police.
So why do you think they come so heavy-handed then? Why?
Because I think there was something to do with a firearm at some point, and so they perceive firearms as just a threat anyway. But I'm like, it's 14. Like, should you really be in the police if you're this scared of a 14-year-old? Because if you'd knocked on that mum's door at 5 p.m. and said, we need to have a word with your kid, she'd have let him go. They didn't need to do that. And that, again, is what, 100 grand for that operation. And so the thing is, all the neighbours the next day were coming round to, we know that's not what you're like. I can't believe they did that.
Just moving on. What support? What do you go on?
What like so do you feel like you've had any support on this journey what you're on? Have you had any support from any councillors, MPs, anyone of a decent position who can make any changes? Is anyone listening to you?
It's long, innit? There's a few, there's other, I mean, Jengba are a brilliant organisation. They're national and they challenge joint enterprise. They have been doing for years.
Okay.
You've got NGBA, which are the mums from the trial in 2017. They're doing their bits.
Yeah.
And they've managed to get an appeal. Like, the thing is, you get appeals, you get legal teams doing appeals pro bono for you.
Okay.
Because they know it's wrong. They can see, they're not going to do that for nothing if they don't think they've got a chance of winning. But the appeals then take years anyway. It's when the Court of Appeal gets around to looking at the case. But there's MPs. There's an MP in Liverpool called Kim who's pushing this at the minute.
Okay.
I can't remember her surname. Lucy Powell's done a bit, but obviously they've got lots of responsibilities. They can't focus all their time on this.
But at least they're listening. At least someone's listening.
So you say with Jeng, but that's. Can you speak more about?
Well, I know Jengba were formed by some mums whose young people, whose sons had who'd got sentenced in joint enterprise. They've been around for years. I can't remember when I first met them, but they relentlessly challenge this. They're constantly doing stuff to try and challenge it. Even when their children have been released from prison, they're still fighting this.
Like on a personal level though, like I know because you know the mums in it, like obviously I couldn't really think if my son got locked up and I knew he was a good kid and he's gone for 16, 17 years. So like give me not a taste of like how them mums are feeling, getting by. Some days they've got to go and go. You know, we've got to think about going on visits, all these things behind the scenes while you're still trying to just like, you know, you got to deal with it. Like your son's in jail, there's nothing that can be done now. So what are the days like for them sometimes, knowing that the kid and they've got to speak to the son, sometimes the son might be upset, sometimes he might be all right. You know, all those emotions, can you give us some sort of thing?
I mean, the sons tend to put on a brave face to families. I've gone on visits before where I've gone with a mum and mum's gone to the canteen. And when we've got there, the son's been, hugged them, everything's great, And then when the mum's gone and they're like, I need to get her here, I can't take it. And then obviously mums, you learn to put a face on, don't you? So you don't actually, even mums of kids who've been killed, when I'm like, you okay? And they're like, yeah, I'm all right. And you know full well they're not. You can see that they're not. Your life's kind of on hold. There's also concerns like, are you even going to be alive when your son gets released? You know, some mums are like 50.
That's what I used to worry about. My mum, like if something happened, but like, where's the men? Like, I'm not being figgy. Where's the men? I know this couple, but I know, but like a lot of the time when the pain and the suffering's going on, I know men. I can't say I know men do. I know men deal with things differently, more probably. I know, and some women probably can't understand it because a man might be quiet, he might not show the emotion. So I know it causes a lot of problems in relationships sometimes because the mother's going through it, but like the men, like how do you know like the men deal with it? Is it like, because I don't know, I'm probably still like a bit of an angry person who'd want retaliation if something happened to my son.
I think a lot of men would be though.
So how did this, what is it that's, you know, how did they do that, have that composure not to just go out and want to retaliate? Or
I think it is just about how we deal with things. We talk to each other, and I think when, like in the trial, the first trial, the mums didn't know each other. And I remember when they all got charged, I was at the police station. And the following night, I got all the kids' addresses off my system at work. And I went knocking on all the mums' doors and I said, we need to pull together. You can't do this on your own, because I knew how bad it was going to be. And so I pulled them all together, and then they had each other. So we had they get support from each other. And in the last trial, you notice the mums came together. At first they're like, no, I'm just here for my kid. But then you realise you're all going through the same thing. You've got to work as part of it, innit? Yeah, and I think a lot of the support comes from each other. There's not really any official support in place, and even when your kid gets acquitted, so it's just like, all right, see ya. There's no apologies. There's no compensation. Like they've missed school. I mean, these kids we're talking about, I've had time off school with COVID, and then they've missed time.
And then they've still got a stain on the name sometimes because people won't let it go, innit?
And then they're going to leave school with probably substandard qualifications that they could have achieved more, but because of this disruption,
It could have turned their life completely upside down.
and a yacht worker said to a young man, I was there, this was during the last trial, and the kid was talking about how he couldn't leave his house without police getting onto him. He wouldn't walk anywhere with a rucksack because the police would definitely stop him, even if he's going to school. And the yacht worker said, oh, well, you fit the offender profile.
What's the offender
And
profile?
it's like, what, like, that's not good enough. And so I said, he were a white male in his 30s. So I said, do you get stopped when you leave your house? And he said, no. And I said, well, you should do, should you not? Do you not fit the offender profile for someone who perpetrates CSE? And he was like, what? And I said, well, 85% of CSE perpetrators are white British men, so how come you don't get arrested every time you leave your house? I didn't stay very long after that, but it's like...
Because I don't think
It's how their conditioning. It's how their conditioning. How they're meant to. Sorry, bro. How their conditioning works in it. Well, they don't think about outside the box or use your own brain. It's like they're in the system, aren't they?
And I think.
And even the words it comes out with. Sorry, bro.
I just think the police are, in general, they're abusing the position. They're coming into an area where they're working with people. They're not even from the area. The police are coming in even from the area. They're dealing with people from a different background. It is a minority background, and there's no they're not very tactile about things. Do you know what I mean? It's like the way they talk to people, like we said, the way they racially profile people. And a lot of people don't even know that the police shouldn't even be stopping you unless there's been a crime reported. Do you know what I mean? Say a crime's been reported and maybe you fit that profile. But half the time they're just abusing it, just pulling up who they want to pull up.
But then, let me just play devil's advocate. Then we do, but then we see kids. Then you see them in you see the kids, and you think that I understand what it is some of it on the handle, but then you see some of the knives. But then you see some of the knives these kids are coming out with down the pants are like.
Yeah, but a lot of them are. Yeah, but Neville, it's, you know what? No, it's 4% of young people that have carried a knife. 4%. It's not 94% or it's 4%.
Listen,
so the majority aren't carrying knives.
I'm living in a different place now where it's mostly white folk. Yeah, I still see bunches of white kids dressed in black with the gloves on and all that. I don't see police pulling them up.
And the balaclavas and that.
Yeah, because they'll get about on the bikes all that, but I don't see the police pulling them up. You get me? And if we see a bunch of black youths in the hood, and they're dressed, it's tours. If they're young, we're not going to think, oh, I don't want to walk past. Just normal tours. But to these police officers, they're looking at them like they're criminals already.
But I'm not going to lie. I think we could do something about that. Like my kid, I've never allowed my kid to wear an all black tracksuit.
Okay, as parents, fair enough.
Yeah, I think we need to be responsible for the image that our kids
when you get to a certain age, though, innit?
Them teenagers.
No, but I went in Asda the other night, and there were different groups of young men, school-age young men. I'm talking, all dressed black, ballets, whatever. And I'm just like,
but that's the dress sense.
Yeah, but if you're doing that, at the very best, you're going to get police harassment. At the very worst, you're going to have to back that image. And neither one of them is good, so we need to be more responsible. Like my kid was out in red and yellow and blue. There's no way my kid up to this day is 25. He can't wear all 24. Can't wear all black.
But Kemi, you've got never. You've got since COVID though, but you've got these big companies making these hoodies and these.
Yeah, but we don't have to buy them.
No, but they've got onto it's a trend. Let's get it out there. These kids are buying it. They're not helping as well, are they?
No, they're not. But we as a community and as parents, we've got to start taking some responsibility for what happens in our own communities. We're very nonchalant, we sit there and and I get it, we're tired. Like the only source we've got to deal with conflicts and harm at this current time is the police and their resource of conflicts and harm. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there are some good initiatives being tried to be done. I just had a meeting now about child-centred policing with 2 officers, and they want to speak to mums whose kids have been affected by this, and it all sounds good, and they're decent people, but they're within this institution that's got this mentality. And I'm not going to lie, it's not the first time. I've been doing this for all them years, and I've had the same conversations for the past 20 years. Doing it for? 20, 25 years.
Is it okay?
And it's been the same conversations.
All the time.
So you get to a certain point, then new police come in, and then it starts over again.
So what about the fact of obviously we're not stupid, innit? We know there's a lot of things going on in Moss Side.
Everywhere, don't put it on my side,
everywhere.
man.
Yeah. But I'm saying that
Let me tell you, in the 9 years I have not seen one young man from my side in a trial accused of anything. So no, there's not. There's a lot of incidents take place in my side, but there's not a lot of young people in my side participating in those incidents.
Well, there's a lot of kids coming into my side, though, innit? Right. So let's just say on that, because I'm not trying to say, but obviously we've got to work on. I'm about my area first before anything else. So I'm thinking about. I don't like I'm trying to say any.
I am. That's why I'm defending the kids there.
So I know I understand that. So, but like in the fact of like, I know what you're saying to me. It's a bit hard. It's a bit like. Do you think that most of the like we've got different people from different ethnic minorities or different cultures. So do you think that sometimes that like with what's going on, like without going too deep, like do you think that these different cultures need to speak about what's going on between the kids as well? Are they as concerned about how we are about our kids, or do they know what's going on without going too deep?
Some of them probably don't know so much what's going on because there's some whose parents
they're blind to it, kind of thing.
Oh, they don't speak English good.
Right.
So, like, I know of kids that will interpret for parents but not say what's really being said. They'll say what they want to say, like, oh, yeah, your kid's been bad in school, he had a fight. Oh, I've done really well in maths today. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I have heard them kind of stories. But, yeah, I think so. But I don't think we can blame it on the different cultures because we had this back in the day when there wasn't different cultures. That's where it started, lads, as you well know. And it was one culture.
Yeah.
Basically, it was one culture. There might have been different countries that they originated from, but everyone had the same culture.
Our age, we was against the system, innit?
Well, the
system we're
against each other.
Each other and the system.
Yeah, but that was set in place again, similar to this, that whole divide and conquer thing. It's like divide and rule. They put them in place. Like prior to that, let me ask you, prior to that, if you were walking down the street and you saw another black male or a group of young black men, you'd have let on that was your crew because you like as a human, you generally feel safer around people that look like you. But all of a sudden now, we've got groups of young men that are feeling scared when they see another group of young men that look like them. Like, that's being created somehow. That's not natural. These things are being created. If we look at how the media's peddled this image of young black men for so long, and they'll internalise that. They'll internalise what's being said to him. Like, if you're getting stopped and searched regularly, if you're getting harassed by the police regular, you're going to internalise that criminality kind of, because everyone knows if you tell a kid they're stupid often enough, they're going to believe it. Tell them they're a criminal often enough, they're going to believe it.
And like you said at the start, it's like the people are growing up with trauma, man. And you said something I didn't even think. Some of them don't even know they've got trauma.
And they just feel like they've got nothing to lose because they can't see a future. Especially, you've got 2 years. Right, look at this generation now. So we had the massive cuts in youth provision 2011. So on my side we had play work, my side in Hume we had adventure. Kids accessed there from like 5, they went adventure, then they'd move on to Hideaway, to Powerhouse, whatever youth projects it was, and they had youth provision the whole way through. So we've sacked youth provision then, it got cut to the bone then, and so at that point, kids that were 5 then, and now what, that 2011, them kids are like 16, 17 now. They've not accessed youth provision. They've had 2 years lost to education because of COVID. They've now out here trying to fit into a society that's already judging them before they've even started. And we know they are. We can deny racism, but we've had Brexit was clearly about racism. The election was clearly about immigration. The riots. Do you know what I mean? We can't deny that racism exists.
Is rife. It's just more insidious, isn't it? It's not as blatant. It's getting more blatant again because of everything that you just said, what's happened lately. But
can we just say that, can I just make it clear? Serious youth violence is not dominated by black communities. It's across the board, but it's only those stories that get pushed.
You got places in Scotland that have been doing knife crime for donkeys years.
No, you got places in Manchester.
I know,
You don't even have to look Scotland.
But I'm saying you got this like full on white areas, Newcastle. There's there's lots of places.
One of the highest murder rates in England is Lincolnshire.
Right, I think I've seen that somewhere.
But you only hear Manchester, Birmingham, Manchester, Birmingham, London. You don't hear other places.
Very
But
true,
like
yeah.
Liverpool, there's hella knife crime in Liverpool.
Yeah.
It's white young men.
Then it's young white
North
guys.
Manchester,
And gun
white
crime,
young
Salford.
I can remember a few years ago, there's some stats, I think it was 76% of serious youth violence was perpetrated by white British young men.
Yeah.
The rest of it was everybody else.
10 years ago, there was a grenade going off in Salford. Wasn't even a big thing. You don't really hear about it. Everyone's forgot about it now.
But Salford,
Do you know what I mean?
Salford's gang stuff is family stuff. It's historical. It's hard to infiltrate.
But it's still there. Still
like it's
stuff.
difficult for the police to infiltrate though because it's tight.
Yeah.
Here we've got random kids thinking they're a gang because they're selling a bag of weed on Instagram.
And it's a shame, man.
And that's easy to disrupt.
Yeah.
What these kids don't know, man, is they're going out, they're doing something, they're having some beef, some minor beef that escalates, then someone's dying, then 2 lives are ruined, 2 families are ruined. And
Unless
it's
it's joint enterprise, then it's way more than 2.
Then well there you go, then there's a whole. I want to just know what would you like to see for the future? What would you like to see change? What would you like to see change?
This is like a final question.
Sorry. But no, it's not an easy answer. You might need time. That's not an easy answer.
I've got ADHD and PTSD. That's massive in my head.
Right, well, it's not,
I'd like to eliminate racism first and foremost.
Well, that would
like
help,
equity for everybody, which like I can't see it happening. But if I could click my fingers on anything, I would have a fully equitable society for everybody. So that young people feel like they're a part of me. A lot of young people feel like they live in peripheral to mainstream society. So that doesn't encourage them to engage in society and be a positive member. They feel like people are against them because of the trauma, because of this. They feel like everyone. Shiloh, when it was Black Lives Matter, the main one, the big one a few years ago, my kid came on one day and he was like, Mum, everything's changed. Like, white women are smiling at me at the street. They're not walking across the road. They're not clutching the bag. And I was like, really? He said, yeah, I like it. 2 weeks later, I asked him, is it still? And he was like, no, it's gone back to normal. And it's like, why are you judging my kid? My kid's he's 6'4", but he's a nice kid. He's never harmed anybody. Like
a young kid out the area walks into the wrong place and people are looking at him like he's gonna be. It's not good, man. He
was friends with the kids in the first joint enterprise trial. He was really good friends with some of them. I sent him to school in Knutsford, even though I live in my side, because I didn't want at that time. Police were getting harassed. Police were arresting kids coming out of school. They were stopping, searching them and stuff. And I was getting the tickets. The kids were bringing the tickets into the project. So I didn't want my kids to go to school around there. I didn't want police to know him. So I sent him to Knutsford. When that murder happened, it was like GCSE kind of times. So he was in Knutsford doing extra revision classes. He would have been in that park potentially playing football with some of them defendants. He could have then been charged with a murder. So that made me realise how close and how easy it is for your kid to get involved in this stuff.
Get dragged into something, when they're just like out there, just try to stay out of trouble and do the thing.
Well, we spoke about it. There's a lot more things we could speak about, Akemia, and I hope we could bring you back on the show again. But I just thank you for giving us insight into this.
All the work you're doing in the community and whatnot.
Anything for you too.
I'd like to say though, before we go, I think as well, like I said before, the police's attitude, man, is all wrong. The way they come into the area and deal with the youths and deal with the people from the area. Just have a bit of respect with it. That's how you approach people and. For real, man. I think,
they need to rehumanize us and stop pathologizing us. We're not a academic research project. We're not a bunch of criminals. Do you know what I mean? We're just trying to crack on and live a life where we can own our house and go on holiday and go shopping when we want to go shopping.
Just like everybody else.
The
country. Just want to own a home, make sure our kids are safe. And
leave a better legacy than the one we got.
We don't look at life no different than anyone else from any other area.
And we've got way more experience. I think you said about the different nationalities in my side. To me, I'm proud of that. There's so many people in such a densely populated area. The reality is there's not that many issues.
You know what? No one's bothered. Your neighbour's Irish, Indian, Pakistani. No one cares, man. Do you know what I mean?
We could teach the world a lot. If the world watched my side and
you go out the area and people are looking at you with a different colour. Come to my side, man. See how people don't care what colour or religion you are. For real. But go on, I think we might
be for them, man. But But hopefully
keep doing what you're doing, man, and we need more people like you. You will be
You don't get no
tired.
sleep. Do you get any sleep?
Not
You don't get
much.
no sleep.
No, because the ADHD stops me from sleeping. Then the PTSD wakes me up in
So, I
anxiety
mean, that was
dreams.
that was last question, Kemi. So this it takes its toll on you. It must take its toll on you, innit? You know,
I've aged like 30 years in past 9 years. I know I
Yeah.
have because I've had all them trials and them.
Yeah.
Like I've seen 4 kids get killed. I've took mums to hospital, seen the kid on life support. It's a lot.
Not many people could do
It's
it.
a
So
lot.
respect to you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah.
And we'd love to have you back on.
Respect to you too as well, lads, turning it around and shit.
Try to do something good in the shitty world.
All right. But yeah, man. All right.
Respect, Kemi. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.